For today's project, I'm using drawing paper, crayons, and a set of watercolors. My project today is going to be a simple portrait, and I'm going to focus on a technique called crayon resist or wax resist. I'm going to start. I have my paper vertical, and portraits are generally vertical. That's kind of a general rule of thumb. I'm going to start by making a big letter U right in the middle of my paper. So one of the things that this project is going to have is a lot of symmetry. And symmetry is when you have a line right down the middle and everything is the same on both sides. So I happen to have a stick on my desk and I'm using that to show you my line of symmetry. And see how my letter U is balanced? Most of my drawing is going to be very symmetrical today. So the next step is I'm going to connect the top of my letter U, and I'm going to start to add some features. When you do a portrait, it's generally a picture of a person or someone like a pet, and that means they're going to have a face, and the details of a face are sometimes referred to as the features. So I'm adding kind of a letter C, and then that becomes more of a letter D on the other side because it's a mirror image. So there's my symmetry again. The next thing I'm going to do is add a bit of a curve on the top and a bit of a bigger curve on the bottom. Again, this is a very symmetrical shape. It kind of makes me think of a beetle right now. Okay, so I've connected my top. I'm going to do the same for the bottom. And again, I'm still very symmetrical. Next, I'm going to go right about from the middle of this shape over to the edge of my paper. Going to go up, up, and I'm going to add a little pom-pom at the top. So I've got the features, like the basic shape here, and you can see it's becoming kind of a person-ish. I'm going to add a few more details. This is a winter theme. So mostly I'm very symmetrical so far. Now here comes the fun part. Depending on how you draw your features, it will change who your portrait's of. So this is kind of a little winter bear. Okay, so this next step, this kind of comes into the technique. I'm using crayons today, and crayons are made out of wax. The colored pigment is set in wax for crayons. So I did nice dark lines when I was drawing my bear's portrait, and I want to make sure I'm leaving a lot of wax on the paper. And I'm going to use white now in my background, and it won't show up very well right now. You can hear I'm pressing really hard. I'm making kind of double X's to make snowflakes, and you're not going to really be able to see them because I'm drawing with a white crayon on white paper. I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to make some patterns in the jacket. I'm going to add another little detail here. A little line of symmetry and some buttons. I like that. Now in the jacket, I'm going to use yellow, and I'm just going to make some spirals. Now I'm still pressing hard, but you can see the yellow now. And on my scarf, I'm going to use the green to make some stripes. And again, I'm pressing really hard with my crayon. If I tilt my paper a little bit, you can kind of see my snowflakes that I drew in the background. And you can definitely see those little crumbles because I was pressing so hard. I got little bits of my white crayon. In fact, I broke my white crayon, but that's okay because that means I was pressing nice and hard and I got a lot of wax on my paper. The next thing I'm going to do is use my watercolors, and if you notice, I like to point this out every time, my watercolors are in rainbow order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. This is brown and black. So the rainbow are these 6 colors. Key for the next step is the crayons are made with wax, and wax and water don't get along, and I'm going to use watercolor paints. So I'm going to get my brush wet, and I'm going to make my sky blue. So I'm going to go ahead and get some water on my blue paint, kind of wet it, and you want to get kind of a balance between enough water to move your paint around, and you don't want to have it be so thick that it covers up your wax. So you can see the wax resisted the paint. That snowflake is popping through the watercolors. So I'm going to use the tip of my brush. If you notice, I'm using the tip so I can get into those little corners and carefully paint. And you can see my snowflakes are starting to pop through. See how that one got covered up for a second there? So you have to kind of balance it with enough water so that it rolls off the wax. Just remember, every time you change colors, I'm done with my background now, and I'm done with blue, you have to wash your brush. I want to make sure I keep my paints a rainbow. I don't want to go from red to orange to yellow, where all my colors will mix together and I end up with just browns. I find that I'm dipping back into my water dish every time I pick up some paint with my brush to paint in here, so that the paint is wet enough and has enough water to flow over those crayon lines.